The war was finally over. That alone felt unreal. For 17 cycles, the Heliox conflict had devoured entire star systems, erased civilizations, and turned mercenaries like Kale Riven into ghosts drifting from contract to contract. Kale had fought on moons that no longer existed, bled in atmospheres never meant for human lungs, and watched allies die for causes they barely understood. Now, as his battered cruiser descended toward the capital world of the Varelian Concord, there was only silence on the comms and a single message looping on his console. Reward confirmation granted. Report for compensation. Kale leaned back in his pilot's chair, armor creaking, and let out a dry laugh. About time, he muttered. He expected credits. A mountain of them. Enough to disappear forever. Or maybe weapons, experimental tech, something illegal and lethal that would keep his name feared in the underworld for decades. That was how these things worked. You sold your soul. The galaxy paid you back in power. The Concord capital rose beneath him like a living jewel, its spires of bioluminescent crystal piercing violet clouds. Unlike the scorched worlds he was used to, this planet gleamed with untouched beauty. Peace looked strange on a galaxy that had known nothing but war. Kale docked at a private platform reserved for assets of significant contribution. The phrase made his jaw tighten. He hated being called an asset. He wasn't a weapon. He was just a man who survived. Varelian guards awaited him, tall, four-eyed beings with silver skin and ceremonial armor that shimmered as they moved. Their leader bowed slightly. Kale Riven, the translator chimed, "The Concord acknowledges your service. You are expected. No gratitude. No ceremony. Just procedure." Perfect. They escorted him through halls grown rather than built, walls pulsing faintly as if breathing. Kale's hand rested near the hilt of his sidearm, out of instinct. You didn't survive 17 cycles by relaxing just because someone said thank you. At last, they entered the chamber of settlement. The room was circular, vast, and filled with representatives of dozens of species. Some he recognized. Others were so alien they barely registered as living beings. At the center stood the triarchs of the Concord, three towering figures bound together by neural light, their voices merging into one. Kale Riven, the triarch spoke, echoing through the chamber. You fulfilled the final condition of the Heliox Accord. Kale folded his arms. I ended the war. You promised compensation. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Yes, the triarch said, and the Concord honors all agreements. A platform rose from the floor between them. Kale's eyes narrowed. There was no crate, no weapon rack, no data core. Instead, a single figure stood there. A woman. No, alien. His mind corrected automatically, but the word felt inadequate. She was humanoid in shape, slender and tall, with skin like pale opalescent glass that shimmered softly under the chamber lights. Long hair, the color of deep space starlight, cascaded down her back. Her eyes were large and luminous, glowing with shifting hues that reminded Kale of nebulae. She wore a simple, flowing garment and nothing else. No restraints. No weapons. Just her. Kale stared. This, he said slowly, is a joke. The triarch's voices harmonized with something like solemn regret. This is your reward. Silence crashed down on the chamber. Kale's hand tightened into a fist. I didn't fight a war for 17 cycles to be handed a slave. A few delegates recoiled at the word. She is not a slave, the triarch said. She is a Nyxari. That name rippled through the room like a shockwave. Kale had heard the rumors. Everyone had. The Nyxari were myths whispered in fringe systems, an ancient species said to be living conduits of quantum consciousness. Living keys. Living weapons, some said. Others claimed they could rewrite probability itself. They were also extinct, or so the galaxy believed. She is the last, the Triarch continued, and she has been entrusted to you. Kale laughed, sharp and humorless. You don't hand someone to another being and call it trust. The Nyxari girl turned her gaze toward him. When their eyes met, something brushed against Kale's mind. Not words, not images, a sensation. Like standing at the edge of a vast, quiet ocean. Kale staggered back a step, heart hammering. What the hell was that? He snapped. She is bonded, the Triarch said. To you. Kale drew his weapon in one smooth motion and leveled it at the Triarchs. I didn't agree to this. The guards tensed, but none advanced. You did, the Triarch replied calmly. When you accepted the final contract clause. Kale's mind raced. He remembered the clause, a sealed addendum, encrypted beyond standard decryption. Strategic discretion in post-war stabilization. He'd assumed it was political cleanup. Not this. She's not property, Kale said through clenched teeth. I don't take people as payment. The Nyxari girl took a step forward. The chamber lights flickered. Kale felt the weapon grow heavy in his hand, systems failing one by one. His comm implant buzzed as his neural interface overloaded. She raised her hand gently. Everything stopped. The Triarchs bowed their heads. She has chosen you, they said. As was foretold. Kale lowered the useless weapon, breathing hard. What does that even mean? It means, the Triarch said, that the fate of the Nyxari, and perhaps the galaxy, now rests with you. They gave him no time to argue. Within the hour, Kale found himself back aboard his cruiser with a Nyxari girl standing silently in the cargo bay, gazing at the stars through the viewport. What's your name? He asked, breaking the silence. She turned to him, head tilting slightly, as if the concept amused her. I do not have one, she said softly. Her voice was melodic, layered with harmonics that made his translator struggle. Everyone has a name. Not my people, she replied. We were known by function, by resonance. Kale sighed. I'm not calling you function. A faint flicker of light danced across her skin, something like amusement. Then you may name me. The weight of that settled heavily on his shoulders. Lyra, he said finally. It means a light. She repeated it slowly. Lyra. The lights shimmered again, brighter this time. Yes, she said. That will do. As the days passed, Kale learned the truth the Concord had hidden. Lyra was not a weapon in the conventional sense. She was a stabilizer, a living interface between quantum realities. During the war, the Concord had used her kind to collapse enemy fleets without firing a shot, to end battles by rewriting causality. It had nearly driven her people extinct. She feels the echoes, Kale realized one night as she trembled in her sleep. Every death. Yes, Lyra whispered. Every choice. Kale had killed thousands. The knowledge sat between them like a live wire. He tried to keep his distance. He told himself he was just her escort until he could figure out how to get her somewhere safe. But the bond didn't allow distance. He felt her fear when nightmares took her. She felt his guilt when memories surfaced unbidden. Slowly, painfully, they learned each other's scars. When mercenary hunters tracked them across the outer rim, Kale fought as he always had. Efficient, brutal, precise. But this time, Lyra stood beside him. Not destroying. Protecting. She bent probability just enough to keep him alive, just enough to disarm enemies without killing them. You don't have to carry it alone, she told him after the last hunter fled. No, Kale replied quietly. But I choose to. The Concord came for her 6 months later. They arrived with fleets and ultimatums. "You cannot hide in Nyxari," the Triarchs declared. "She belongs to the galaxy." Kale stood in the hangar bay, weapons hot, Lyra's hand in his. "She belongs to herself," he said. Lyra stepped forward. "No," she said gently. "They are right about one thing." Kale turned to her, panic rising. "Lyra, I am not meant to hide," she continued. "But neither am I meant to be owned." She looked at the Triarchs, her eyes blazing with ancient light. "I choose my own fate." Reality shuddered. In that moment, Lyra made a choice her people never had. She dispersed herself, not into nothingness, but into the fabric of the galaxy itself. A living resonance woven through space-time, stabilizing the fractures left by war. The fleets vanished. The weapons powered down. Peace, real peace, settled across the stars. Kale fell to his knees, screaming her name. Years later, long after the galaxy rebuilt, Kale Riven walked alone beneath unfamiliar stars. He felt it sometimes, a warmth, a presence, a whisper of light. And when the universe trembled, it always steadied again. Because once, a man expected credits or weapons. And instead, he was given something far more powerful. A life. A choice. And a reminder that even in a galaxy forged by war, humanity could still learn to protect what mattered most. The end.